All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, I do want to note that this is a recorded session. We will be editing, on the front end and the back end in particular, but we'll try to include everything that's going to be helpful to the general scheduling population. And I want to give us a quick intro for everything that we will be covering. We are only really going to be focusing on summer session, so please keep that in mind. If there is time at the end for other general ISA questions, we will get into it, but we're really going to be focusing on the summer build. We'll start out with introductions after this, and then Lisa will take over for a bit, and she will be talking through important things for the summer session team and what they need from you and what their process looks like. And then I will be hopping in after that and be talking about all the specific things related to the ISA. And then we'll follow up with a Q&A. Lisa, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everybody. Looking through the list, I think I've worked with most of you already up until this point, but my name's Lisa Bargabas. I'm the business manager in summer session. Normally, Renee Lee would also be here. She has been overseeing course scheduling in our office, but she just had a little baby. So she is not here and I'm stepping in the courses role. And I think we're gonna have a great 22. Thank you.
Great. And my name is Eric Winter-Villaloose. I'm a technical project manager with BioSci. And I took over from the inestimable Katie Freehafer a year ago when she went on to be full-time on ESR SIS project. And so I've been working with the development team and the work group and all of you. And I imagine many of you have seen my name at this point, either in an email or responding to a ticket or some other event that we've held, like office hours. All right, Lisa.
All right, and Eric, I should also mention that Kimberly Newmark was able to join us. So Kimberly's here if there's registrar related questions, which is wonderful. Yes, Sarah, how are we talking about summer already? I never get to think about Christmas. It's always like, summer in December for us here at UCSD. Sorry, can you move to the next slide, Eric? Thanks. Okay, so I'll just talk a little bit about how summer's different from the academic year. Like you would think that summer is just a fourth quarter and that it runs the same way as the rest of the school year, but it doesn't. Fall, winter, spring, they're 10-week quarters. Summer courses can be varying in length. Most of them are 5-week sessions, which our students love. They don't want to spend all summer in class. So they love being able to take a 10-week class in 5 weeks in the summer and still have time to, get a job or travel or go to the beach, the things that kids like to do when they have time off. The student population is smaller. We have about 15,000 students in the summer. About 95% of the students are UCSD students and they're using summer to catch up because they're behind or they're trying to get ahead, to take a class that was maybe full, fall, winter, spring. But we do have 5% of the students who are from other UC campuses or other universities. And we also have high school students who come and take classes in the summer, especially kids that want to be admitted. They think it looks good on their college application. So we get a lot of those really very studious and ambitious high school students coming as well. Tuition is different. There's non-resident fees during the academic year, and there's, based on your full-time or part-time status, the tuition will vary. In summer, there's a per unit amount that is paid. It's like $279 a unit for UC students, and then a little bit more for visiting non-UC students or high school students. But it's the same if you're a resident of California or a non-resident. So that's one plus for students who are out of state. And then when it comes to faculty, that's where I usually work, is on the hiring side with your department AP staff. In the academic year, the faculty, are covered by your department FTE, and there's a teaching load built into their contracts. You're working with registrar to get names on the schedule when new lecturers are hired and things like that. In the summer, the faculty are paid by summer session. It's a fixed payment per course. There's no requirement to teach, like no faculty are committing to teach in summer. It's an extra opportunity for them. And the pay is different because it's just for teaching. There's no like committee work and other things involved. And then because summer session is doing the paying and overseeing the hiring, we are controlling when the names go on the schedule of classes. So it's a little bit different than during the academic year. And then with your courses, summer session is looking to see that we have a robust summer program. We don't want to have to cancel a lot of courses because of low enrollment. That leads to students not being confident that they can count on the classes that they're signing up for to actually be offered. So we just try and keep control of what's being offered. We don't want to offer too many sections of a course or too many sections in the same session. You know, we're just kind of looking at some basic oversight of the management of the courses. So that's what's different about that piece in summer. Okay, I think that covers it. Thanks, Eric. So as far as scheduling for summer, like if you're scheduling, like once you do your initial submission to the registrar, like your schedule build, and you're changing the days and times of a class, summer session doesn't need to be involved in that piece. You're going to work directly with the registrar like you always do during the academic year. But if there's an instructor change, like if your faculty can't teach anymore and you need to find a replacement, you're going to enter that change in the ISA. You're going to just, if you don't know who's teaching, you can delete the name of the person who's in there already and then leave it as, you know, blank, like staff. And then when you know the new person, put that name in, because that is going to flag me in payroll to make sure that I cancel the contract of the person who can't teach, send a new contract to the new person. So that's why summer session has to be involved in that type of change. And then if you're changing the session of a class, let's say you have it in session 1 and you're changing it to session 2, that impacts the pay date for the instructor. So summer session needs to be in that loop so that I actually have to issue like a new contract to the faculty member. So you're going to make that change in the ISA. You're going to propose like, let's say if it's, I don't know, Math 10, you're going to propose Math 10A, called Math 10A. It's in session 1, you're going to propose a new instance of it in session 2, and you're going to request cancellation of it in the first session. So you're adding a new class and canceling the existing one. And that'll prompt me in payroll to cancel the contract from the first session and move it to the correct session. And then you're going to work with the registrar to make that change in the schedule. But the registrar is going to make sure that all those changes are approved in the ISA before they actually make that change on the schedule. So as long as you're doing everything in the ISA, that's like the central place where summer session's looking, registrar's looking, and that's what we're going to base the actual schedule of classes on, like the information in the ISA. Which thank God it's here, because Eric, before you were here, everything was done over email. And I was always terrified I was going to miss something, you know, in an email, and it affects people's pay. So I'm really thankful that we have the ISA to help us track all these changes. And then for cancellation, like this came about when we went to remote, you guys, a couple summers ago. I think the John Moore, the Dean of Undergrad Education, and Carlos Jensen, the EVC for Education and Innovation, they were concerned that going remote would cause a lot of courses to be canceled or something. So they became very interested in overseeing what was being canceled and why it was being canceled. So we have this kind of cancellation process. All you're going to do is submit a cancellation request in the ISA if you have to cancel a course. Summer session kind of looks at it and approves it. We do ask that you put a reason, like, is the instructor not available? Do you not need this course anymore because there's not enough students enrolling? Or, you know, just kind of say what's going on. It's a drop-down multiple choice, so that's really easy to do. And then you're going to want to set the enrollment to 0 so more students don't keep enrolling in the class. You need to notify the students who are already enrolled in that class before the class gets canceled. So you're going to need to take that step and then tell registrar scheduling to go ahead and cancel the course from the schedule of classes and remove it from ISIS. Registrar is going to check in the ISA again, our central place, right, to make sure that the cancellation was approved. And then that prompts me in payroll to cancel the contract for the instructor. Do you have anything, Kimberly, do you want to add anything to that?
The only thing I would add is that if the section or the class being canceled has student enrolled, so you need to notify the students. When you send us the request for cancellation, please include in your email verification that you contacted the students. We don't need to see the email that you sent them, but you need to put in that cancellation email something to the effect of, and the students have already been contacted, because we can't cancel until we have confirmation from the department that they already notified the students. So it'll waste a little time because we'll see the email and reply back, great, have you notified the students yet? So yeah, you could just preemptively put that in.
Yeah, that's an excellent request, just to save us an extra email step, right? Thank you, that's great. Okay, any questions about this kind of oversight, like why summer session's butting in and when we need to know and when we don't need to know? Okay, great. So then timeline, the ISA is open right now for your 2022 summer session courses. We're asking that you propose all your courses by the 19th, so a week from Friday. After that, summer session meets with our faculty advisory committee. We have representation from all the divisions on campus, and we look at all the courses being offered and make sure that everyone's in agreement with the courses that are on the slate. I think we've only, not approved like maybe 1 or 2 courses last year. Like the departments are, you guys are so on it as far as what your students need. So it's almost like a formality, really. So then those classes are approved, and our goal in summer session is we want to have a preview of courses on our website before the holiday break. So when students are home with their parents, they're kind of looking and deciding what they want to do for the summer. They can see if the courses they need are going to be offered. Of course, days and times aren't up there. It's more like, the session information, but not more detailed than that. But still, students really appreciate, having that, at least that much information, so they can start planning their lives for July, August, September. And then when we come back in January, that's when you're probably really going to dig into scheduling days and times. And if the registrar's office needs your schedule by January 27th, 2022. Anything to add there, Kimberly?
No, except a note to folks that with the schedules being submitted through ISA, you really do need to make that deadline. ISA closes and then you can't submit until we get to last look, which means that if you need campus space, you will be out of luck for campus space. You will have to choose from what's left after we do the schedule. So these scheduled deadlines that we have now are real. And so we really do need schedules in by the deadline.
Thank you. Yeah, that is new for, you guys did that for spring, but it's new for summer, where there's no more schedule build Excel spreadsheets and everything's going to go through the ISA, which is a big improvement. And we're excited about that. But yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Kimberly, that the deadline is more of a firm, hard deadline.
One more consideration too is when you're putting things in session 3, you really do need to know what subterm, because as part of that schedule process, you are going to need to identify which subterm of session 3 you're placing your classes in.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Okay, I think next slide, Eric. So just a few tips, which I think we've talked about a lot of these already. Make sure everything is done in the ISA, right? Instructor changes, session changes, cancellations, your initial course proposals, everything's in the ISA. Please remember to include subtitles if you have a special topics class. Otherwise, students don't really know what they're enrolling in. If you have any special classes like global seminar classes or travel study classes, those are kind of already approved, right, with the Global Seminars office, but they need to be scheduled. So please put everything into the ISA for review and to make sure it gets scheduled. Same with if you have summer success program courses. Now, I don't think the programming has been decided yet for Summer Bridge, Summer Engineering Institute. That's always the tricky issue. But whatever we know right now, please get that into the ISA. We have a few tips here for scheduling. There's the summer session guidebook on our website. We have a 5-year enrollment history report. Like if you want to see how the enrollment has looked in your classes for the past 5 years in the summer, that's just a quick reference right there. And then we have a little quick start, one pager. Maybe it's more than one page, just a little PDF on, how to get started using the ISA, which you guys probably don't need, maybe more of a new person who hasn't done summer scheduling before. And as Kimberly said, if you're offering a class in special session, please make sure to indicate which subterm it is. Is it the 3-week dates, 8-week dates, 10-week dates? And you do have to choose from that list. Like you can't just make up, a 6-week subterm on your own. Like we have a set number of subterms that the system can support. And that's what we're being asked everyone to follow. Course modality, like the campus announced the plan for winter and spring, right? That there are some exceptions for remote courses and there are steps you have to go through for those approvals. Summer was not part of that announcement. So we're kind of waiting still to see what the official direction will be. Typically we do what's been in place for spring, but I'm not going to assume that that's the case. So we're kind of just waiting to find out the official direction. And then I'm bringing this last point up. There's an incentive pilot for departments because you provide a lot of administrative services to support summer sessions. So the campus gives funding to departments for those services. And for departments that offer more courses and teach more students than they did in 2018, the amount of money you get is like almost double. So there's this criteria that we look at for every department, and that determines how much funding that you get. We have new leadership on campus now in academic affairs, and they're deciding if 2018 is going to be the benchmark to decide the amount of the funding, or if it's going to be last year's courses and enrollments, or are they going to invent something else? We don't know the details. And in the call letter, DOE John Moore said the criteria would be announced in January. So I bring it up only because you may get a request in January once we find out how many courses and students that you need to target. You may all of a sudden get some requests from your chair or, to say, hey, we need to add 5 more classes to the schedule. Like there could be some urgency coming in January where you're going to be asked to add more courses. So just a heads up for you on that. And Kimberly, thank you in the chat. So we are going to have a supplemental scheduling survey for summer. Do you want to add say anything else about that, Kimberly?
No, just thought I know everyone's used to using it in fall, winter, spring, and historically we haven't used it in summer. So there will be a version out to go along with the summer schedule submission. It may not be exactly the same as fall, winter, spring is with regards to all the questions because summer's just different, but there will be a version of it to go along with summer.
Awesome. That's exciting. So a few new things. We're on the move, right? Trying to improve. Every year we try and get a little better. All right, great. I think that's all I had planned to talk about. If anyone else has questions about summer, I'm going to stick around to the end. So I'll be here if you think of anything along the way. And then I'll turn it. Oh, go ahead, Kimberly.
I had one note about summer and remote. And I just want to reiterate that if nothing comes out from the campus with regards to summer, it should be assumed that everything will be in person unless the course is explicitly approved to be remote. The only way that we've been able to offer courses that are not specifically approved to be online through their course approval is through decisions and waivers through Senate. And so without those decisions or waivers, we stay in the, I hate to say the norm because it hasn't been the norm, but we revert back to the pre-COVID norms.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind that if when schedules come to us, nothing has come out from Senate, we cannot, nothing should be coming to us listed as remote because we won't be able to process it as such, unless of course it's an online class already.
Got it. Melissa asked if the presentation is going to be shared. So yes, we are recording and Eric, it'll be posted after the session, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I'd expect it to be up later this week. Tents, Kimberly.
Kimberly, will tents be available in the summer?
I don't even know if tents are going to be available in the spring.
Really?
Yeah. So that is an I don't know.
We're gonna have a dedicated Q&A time at the end. So please make sure to note any of your questions. I do want to go ahead and get through the remainder of the slides, so that way we make sure to finish on time and have time for the Q&A and any other fun activities that anyone wants to do while we're on a Zoom session. All right, so I'm going to talk about the tool. That's what the ISA is. It's a tool and it's here to help you. Our hope is that it is helping you, and over time is helping you more and more and more. All right. So for those of you who are new, the ISA is the Instructional Scheduling Assistant. It's a tool that is used across all academic units. There might be an exception or two still, but it really shouldn't be any exceptions at this point. And it's really a planning tool. And as we are continuing to develop it, it's going to be a tool that will be handling just about every single aspect of getting the schedule of classes built and ready and out the door. And that includes, even changes potentially into when the term begins. It gives you the ability to communicate with instructors, getting those pieces of information into the schedule and making sure that the schedule reflects that. We are a small team of developers. It's 2 developers who are part-time on the ISA, and myself, who is also part-time on the ISA, among other projects within the Division of Biological Sciences. And in consultation with the work group, the ISA work group, we look to release new features. We've been primarily focusing on features that focus around the registrar's process and making sure that we have as much of that process from start to finish for building the scheduled classes and getting into ISIS and getting all those change requests and getting everything reconciled and making sure everything fits in the spaces it's supposed to be and has the enrollments it's supposed to be. That's what we've been working on, and that it continues to be our focus through the next year, but we may have time for bonus features along the way outside of the registrar's module. Some of those items will definitely impact your scheduling lives. For example, once we develop the release of the look, that will happen within the ISA. And then longer term, once we develop the change request cycle, also known as change chaos, sometimes that happens after the look. Those things will eventually also happen within the ISA, but not this year, certainly not for summer. I would not expect to see any of those new features, but over the next year or so, we'll start to release more and more. You can get overall information on our Blink page. You just search for ISA or Instructional Scheduling Assistant on Blink. That's gonna be your fastest way to access that page. How to get access, who's on the work group, how to get training, recorded trainings, such as this one and the one that we had last year, as well as how to contact us. So there's always the question of why do I have to use this? Why can't I use the way I did it before? Why can't I just email everything? Now this new change, why can't I just do a spreadsheet? The biggest reason is standardization and consistency. It means that with one method that is hopefully adapted to meet as many use cases as possible, we understand that there are differences in different units. We're able to get a consistent set of information to the registrar that meets their needs, that meets the requirements of ISIS and eventually the future SIS, whatever that ends up being. It will substantially reduces errors. I think, Kimberly, you mentioned that you saw a substantial difference in spring with the first time where there were not manual changes to the spreadsheets. Much fewer errors. So that's already something that's saving everyone time, both with the back and forth, and in particular Kimberly's team. And the long-term goal, and in some cases it should be doing this already, is to really just reduce the amount of time it takes everyone to get that preliminary schedule ready for getting into ISIS, getting that information to you, and then getting all those changes. So that is why we use it, and that's why we're going to continue to invest our time and development hours and enhance it over certainly the next year and presumably beyond. There's a number of features that we're not going to be talking about today. We're really going to be focusing on summer sessions. So we're not going to really talk about how to copy your schedule. We're not going to talk about ISPs. We're not going to go over custom time blocks. We're not going to go over how to review your class submission statuses now that you're submitting directly to the registrar. Many things. We're not going to talk about bulk actions. There's a lot of features that we have that we're not going to touch on today just for time. So what we're going to go through is the very abbreviated version of how to build your summer session schedule. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do if you're in the ISA is you're going to click on that summer session link on that sidebar, and you're going to want to make sure you're in the current working year. So if you see this, yellow warning bar that says viewing outside of working year, then you're going to want to click on that little link to switch to working year, and that's going to bring you to this, and it should show you the deadline, and then you'll be able to start adding classes, or if you've already copied your schedule, you'll see a number of classes already there. There are two ways to get information into the summer schedule builder. If you copied your previous year's schedule, you should already have a list that matches what you will see next year for each of the summer terms. I'm not going to go over that because everyone should have already been using the ISA in previous terms. And so you've either made that copy or you haven't. The main thing to think about is right now, the way the copy schedule works is it will only work if the year that you're copying into is blank. So that presumably is not an option for everyone because you should have been using the ISA for your spring submits. And I'm not going to go ahead and cover it. The other way is to add classes manually. And so we're going to go over that. So you're going to be in the summer session schedule builder, which is that summer session link that we saw previously. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to go and you're going to see the list of all your courses, whether or not they have something scheduled. And you're going to go to add a class. I have a fake class here. If you're in poli-sci, don't worry, this isn't your real environment. This is our testing environment. I just happened to use it because I was a poli-sci major back in the day. So, brings up some nostalgia for me. So you're going to click on add class. And that's going to come up with ask you for a number of pieces of information. The key things you're going to want to think about are instruction type. So your primary section, so your A00 or your 001 must have the correct instruction type based on the course approval. So you can look at it in ISIS with the screen that's listed there. The other thing is you have to make sure in cases where there are multiple instruction types that all of them are present, because there is validation within the ISA and it's not a valid build otherwise. The other thing you're going to see on that screen, and we'll review that screen in a moment, is projected enrollment. This is a planning tool. So you're able to look at, I anticipate this will be what I'm going to set as my enrollment limit, but it's a way for you to plan out what your year is going to look like ahead of time, both in the ASP and in the summer session schedule builder. It is required, enrollment limit is required, projected enrollment is not, though there will be a little warning that says you don't have enrollment limit, which we'll cover a little bit later. You also have the ability to add an instructor at the time that you add the class to summer session schedule builder. That's optional. If you know who it is, you can add them, particularly if it's someone who's already ladder rank faculty or someone that you use regularly. If it's someone who's going to be new, then you can still add them as a temporary instructor, which we're not going to cover in this session just for time. But I can answer questions on it later, or we can go over some documentation. All right, so the add new class screen currently looks like this. I have to split it into two just so it's not so tiny that you can't see it. And you'll see instruction type there has that little orange bar that tells you that it's required. New from last year is we can generate section codes on the fly. These are going to be best guesses still. So you have the ability to generate that section code when you create the class or not. You can toggle that off. You can add the subtitle. You can select the term. So in this case, S1, S2, or S3. You also have the ability to override subterms. Everyone's subterm is going to be set by default based on rules that we got from the registrar. In pretty much every case, you're not going to want to touch that unless you know that you should. And if you're not sure, you should ask first, because the subterm, if you're typically scheduled in subterm 1, but you know that you have something in subterm 2 for a session, then do it. But if you're not sure, it's better to ask. Projected enrollment, which we talked about, and then you can add a note, which is just internal, or a note to summer session, which summer session will see when you send the class to them. Now we're going to go over what this class approval process looks like. When you propose something, summer session has to okay it for scheduling, and then after that, it will then proceed to the registrar once you submit. All right, so the steps are, you're going to create your schedule in the summer session schedule builder. You're going to then send it to summer session. You're going to have to wait for approval. Every class will display its approval status in the QSB and quarterly preview. QSB is quarterly schedule builder for those who are new. And every instructor will display their summer session approval status in the QSB and the quarterly preview. So those are both new things. And you won't be able to see it if you go to the ISA today. We've done the development on the course approval side to link into those things, and the instructor approval should be ready by Thanksgiving, and we'll release it probably the week after. Then the last step is you're going to submit those preliminary schedules to the registrar scheduling team. Things to note here are, if a class does not have approval from summer session, it will not be submitted to the registrar scheduling team. But everything that does have approval will pass through. And the other thing is, if an instructor doesn't yet have approval from summer session, that instructor will be stripped, I say stripped out, the registrar will not see that instructor. Your class will still have that, so that whenever the approval does happen, you'll still be able to see it in the ISA. But it will effectively, for the registrar's view for that preliminary submission, it will be a blank instructor and no instructor. If you have co-instructors and only one of them is approved, that will be the only instructor that appears for the registrar. All right, so here we are. We're now in the summer session schedule builder, and the first thing you really need to make sure to do is, after you've added your classes on the various sessions, you can then send a summer session. What that's going to do is that's going to then pop it into their dashboard. They're going to see that they have something to approve, and then they'll go through and do their reviews, both for the course offering, as well as for the instructor or instructors that are on that course. As part of that, you need to acknowledge that the appropriate people within your unit have approved your offerings. And once you do that, you'll be able to send it. When you're in the middle of it, you may see several different statuses. So here I have an example. I wouldn't expect a build to ever look like this, but don't worry about it. So there's the approved, which means summer session has said, yes, this course is ready for scheduling. It's able to be sent to the registrar for scheduling. You can have something that has been canceled either by you or by summer session for some reason or another. And then items that are pending are items that have been sent to summer session, but haven't had any action taken on them. And then you can also have something that you've requested cancellation, but summer session hasn't approved that cancellation yet. Or you can have something that you've added since you've sent, or you haven't sent at all. And it will indicate by not having any special colors or statuses that you have yet to send it to summer session. On that left sidebar under the statuses group, there's going to be a summer session class approvals, which is going to be an overview of your status for each of the course offerings that you've requested to be, or each of the classes you've requested from summer session. And it's going to show you across all of the summer session terms. So that's S1, S2, and S3. That's a quick way for you to go and see where everything is at, so you don't have to If you're not in the process of building, or say you're offering 100 classes, it's a faster way to see it. It's also a quick way to request cancellation, although you can do that from the summer session schedule builder page as well. If you're going to request cancellation, you just click on the button next to the class, you give a reason, and then you acknowledge that it's been approved by who it needs to, and then that will go to summer session to approve that request or say, no, we can't for some reason, although I'm not sure that happens often. There might be a corner case. I don't know what it is. I don't know that anyone else here can think of a corner case, but it's there. I'm not going to cover the QSB in this session, just as a heads up. We find that most of our schedulers these days are using the quarterly preview for most of their schedule review, and mostly because it looks closer to what the spreadsheets look like. But you're welcome to use the QSB. A fair number of the functions in the quarterly preview are duplicated there. The main difference the QSB offers is it gives you the ability to see a scheduling grid. If you have a number of single component classes and you want to make sure they don't overlap or that they're appropriately spaced, that's the main thing that you get out of the QSB. In the future, we're probably going to merge the two and just have it all be in one place and have that calendar function be available out of the quarterly preview. All right, so once we do the next release that includes this course approval, instructor approval piece, every class that was entered in the summer session schedule builder will be shown in the correct term within the quarterly preview and the QSB. From that point, you're going to be able to add sections, add components, just like you would every other session. It's going to feel very similar to you. You're able to do that regardless of whether or not it's been approved. That way you don't have to wait for an approval to build out what that class build is going to look like. Things that you're going to want to keep in mind is, add your meeting times, add your locations if they're department space. Make sure all your instruction types are present. And I'll show you on the screen what that looks like. And then we don't know, again, what things are going to look like for summer with our class and whether or not there's going to be more exceptions. But if it will be offered remotely during specific days and times, please make sure to use the R class location from the dropdown. All right, so in the quarterly preview, that's again going to be linked on the sidebar. Make sure to select your term, and then you're going to be able to see your classes that are set for that term that you've currently added within the summer session schedule builder. The look of this is changing. It's actually going to change for all terms, not just for summer. And you're going to see this overview, and I'm going to cover what each of these little things means. So now if you hover over the details button, you're going to see a little pop-up that's going to give you primary section code, as well as you can see that below. That's been requested by a number of people. You're going to see projected enrollment if you have it set, and you're going to see the summer session status. Right here it says approved. That little icon that you see right here, the little sun icon, if it's green, it means it's been approved. If it's yellow, it means it's pending. So you're going to see that very quickly at a glance. So if you're scrolling through, you're going to see all of those. The left question mark, that's projected enrollment. It's yellow just to say, oh, hey, it's the same. That right exclamation point, here it's 0 in green. That means there's no validation errors. If it's if it has a number and it's yellow, that means there's warnings, but nothing that's going to prevent you from sending it on to the registrar. And if it's red and has a number, that means there's an error that will prevent you, one or more errors that will prevent you from sending it on to the registrar. So it's a validation error. And I'll touch on that more when we get to a screen where I have validation errors. So if you click on the class details button, so click the button to edit, that's clicking on the button that says details, it's going to bring you into the class editor. From there, it's going to just bring you up to the class details page. It's going to show you summer sessions approval status again. You can add your administrator note. If you haven't added a subtitle and all that, you can do that. You can update your project enrollment. You can also add instructors by clicking on the instructors tab. I'm not going to cover that. The main thing we're going to talk about is the class components tab. All right, so here is where the nitty gritty of building out a class comes up. So by default, your primary will already be assigned, because when you add the class to the summer session schedule builder, just like you would to the ASB, it's automatically going to get that primary, be that primary section or primary class component. And it's going to get the appropriate section code for that. And then whatever instruction type you assign to that. There's some rules around that. If you have lecture, for example, if you have a lecture instruction type, that has to be your primary class component. That's just a tip. Make sure to do that. Don't skip over that. And then depending on how many types of instruction types that you have approved for that course, you're going to see that many additional buttons. So here, this was this Poly 5D has 2 approved instruction types. We're not including OP as one of those. That's not something that gets scheduled on the schedule of classes. So here it has lecture and lab instruction types. So I have a secondary button, and that's how I would add additional lab sections. If I hadn't yet added my lab sections, then it would just say plus secondary, and then I click on it, and it would allow me to select from the instruction type. If I had 3 different instruction types, for example, a lecture, discussion, and a lab, then I could actually choose which instruction type goes into that secondary block. And then I could choose which instruction type goes into that tertiary block. Only one instruction type can go within one of those blocks. That's to make sure that we don't have labs and discussions mixed together, or labs and seminars, or whatever happens to be. The other thing that's important to note here is we've got this edit button. That's how you go and make changes to the individual sections. So when you click on the edit button, you're going to get this edit plan section. It's going to give you the ability to set the enrollment limit. Again, enrollment limit is required for every section. You can update administrative note for that section, and then you can both add class instructors and add day and time. In special cases, you may need to have a section level instructor. So that's what that would mean is, say you have 6 lab sections, but you're going to have 6, a different instructor for each lab, and you want them to get paid, and you want them to show up on the schedule of classes for enrollment. Then you can add section level override for each of those 6 lab sections. I'm not going to go into detail about that. That's a very corner case. The thing I really want to make sure to talk about is adding days and times. So this is adding meeting times. So you can set things as TBD if you want. You can also leave it blank. If you have a location, you are required to have a day and time. So if you're not sure what your day and time is, but the department space you're going to use, you can do that. The other thing is you can do custom days and times. The list that's going to show up here is going to be the standard days and times for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the standard days and times for Tuesday, Thursday. That's going to be available in your dropdown, or you can do custom and just enter it in manually. The next thing is you want to make sure to decide whether or not you need campus space. So if you need campus space, you want to make sure to toggle yes, and that's going to leave that's going to allow the registrar to see it when you submit, and it's going to remove this drop down for location. If you're using department space or a specific department space or the generalized DEPT space, it's going to be there, as will our class, as is noted. All right, before we go on, I'm going to give us a very, very brief break, and I'm going to launch a poll. What we're interested in is the training methods that you find most helpful. So this is like training modality. These don't select more than 3. Otherwise, if everyone selects all of them, then it's not helpful information for me.
so glad everyone's participating. This is really helpful, right? You're kind of see where everybody's at.
Very helpful. All right, I actually think I've got everyone I'm expecting to answer here. That's fantastic. Perfect.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, we're pretty close to most of the way done, but everyone feel free to take 30 seconds, stand up, stretch, yawn, drink some water, and then I'm going to continue. 30 seconds.
Can I have someone brush my hair like this little chinchilla?
Yes, if you need some self-care, please do that. All right, I'm going to move us along. Okay, so how do you actually submit your schedules to the registrar? So on the quarterly preview, there's going to be a button that says proceed to schedule submission wizard. And then there's going to be steps. And I'm going to go through each of those steps. First step is review step. That's going to just, the first is going to be the whether or not the course has been approved by summer session. This is specific to summer session. And then the next step is going to be whether or not what instructors out of those approved courses are not going to be able to move forward because they haven't been approved yet. And then you're going to see the overall view, which is just like the quarterly preview. It's going to show you errors. You can do filtering. You can do all of that. So you're going to look for those, that red with an exclamation point. If you see that, you want to resolve that before you proceed. And if you don't, you'll get caught out by step 6 anyway. Then after that, there's going to be the link for this supplemental scheduling survey. It is optional depending on your scheduling needs, but if you are going to submit it, please make sure to do it promptly after submitting to the registrar, submitting the schedule to the registrar. Oh no, give me a moment, my page died. Okay, where am I? I'm here. Okay.
Eric, I'm going to answer a question in the chat while you're getting set up.
Yep.
And the question was, if you're in the process of getting an online course approved, like an R version of the class, but it's not ready yet, should you just submit the original course in the ISA, and then when the R version is approved, kind of cancel that one and add the new R version? And I think I like that idea because then students know that that course is going to be offered one way or another. Any concerns on your end, Kimberly, about that?
Yeah. So
yeah.
So it isn't I understand what the course is, but it isn't an R version of a different course. It is its own unique course. So Summer, that's Summer's call with regards to publicizing and all that stuff. You're publicizing a course that doesn't exist, and I don't know when Senate may or may not approve a course, but they are 2 separate courses. So if we're talking about at the stage where we have your classes and we've started building the schedule, it is a cancellation and a new course for us. Because ISIS, again, they're 2 separate courses. It doesn't matter if it's 10 and 10R to ISIS, it could just be 10 and 3002R. They're completely separate pieces.
So maybe the better way is to do a temporary course in ISA just as a placeholder until
that's
the
only
actual
way
course
you'd
is
be
approved,
able
right?
To get it in, because it doesn't exist. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And in that case, hi, this is Kumi, and I asked the question. It's for Japan 28R. So the content is exactly the same. It's just the summer session version. That's why we submitted the proposal. So we'll just submit the regular Japan 20A for now in ISA. And once it gets approved, then we'll cancel it and then resubmit it in ISA as Japan 20 AR. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Great.
But if it is summer session only, and if you will only ever offer that course in summer session, it needs to be something RS.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna work with, Brian. It's only for summer session.
Then you'll need to change the course number.
Yeah.
Yep, it can't be 20R, it needs to be 20RS.
Okay, great, thank you.
Which will show up as a different course. The ISA will see it completely differently.
And it will only ever be allowed to be scheduled in summer.
Okay, yeah, and that's created for the summer, so we'll work on that.
It's exciting.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and proceed just for time. All right, so we review the class, supplementary schedule. So again, that you do not have to complete that before you submit your ISA schedule to the registrar, but you should do it promptly. You can do it before, you can do it after, but they should be both done by the deadline. And then finally, when you get to that final step, and we're going to go through those steps very quickly together, you will then want to, you'll be blocked if you have any remaining validation errors. It won't actually allow you to submit. You have to resolve them first. And then you'll actually click on the submit to registrar button. All right, so how do you do that? On the quarterly preview page, you're going to see the notice from the registrar. That's going to be their little email. You're going to see a submission deadline, which at least as of last night was not set for summer. So I don't have a screenshot of that, but you've heard that it is 22nd or 27th, sorry, of January. You're going to click on that proceed to schedule submission wizard button. That's going to bring you to this lovely view, although we will have one more step for summer session that is not yet available even in our testing environment. So the first thing is it's going to show you the classes that have not yet been marked okay for scheduling by summer session. So here I have one, and it's going to tell me this class isn't going to be sent on to the registrar of those other classes that I had listed. The next step is going to be the instructor approval step. It's going to look very similar, except it's only going to care about the classes that are going to move forward to the registrar, and it's going to say, hey, these instructors are going to be set to blank for the registrar. On your view, your set of data within the ISA as a scheduler, department scheduler, you're still going to see the instructor, but the registrar will not. We should have that released by the 1st, if not earlier. Then after that, which will be number 3 in actuality, once this is released, is going to be this review step. What that's going to do is it's going to allow you to filter, look at all your classes, just like you would in the quarterly preview, and try to find anything that may have some sort of validation error, make sure everything looks good, review warnings. It's sort of a last check. So we just want you to do that last check before moving on, getting to the supplemental scheduling survey. And that's the link, and it'll open up in a new tab, and it's Qualtrics for now, and maybe one day it'll eventually all be in the ISA. All right. And then finally, we're going to get to this final step, which is to be submit schedule. And here I have a validation error. So it's telling me, oh, I can't proceed. You're not allowed to actually submit your schedule yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look if I haven't done anything yet. I'm going to figure out what are my unresolved errors. And there we go. I hover over that little red 2 with the exclamation mark. I can see, oh, I haven't done all my improved instruction types. So in this case, I'm like, oh, I'm missing my lab sections. And I haven't set an enrollment limit, which means my enrollment limit is out of range. So I'll go and resolve those things, proceed back through, make sure everything's good to go. And then once I've done that, I will then see that there's no courses listed. I click on my acknowledgements to make sure all my people have said yes. And then I submit it to the registrar's office. And that's how you do it. So that's how you do it. But how do you get help along the way? We will have virtual office hours. We may have one in December, and then we will definitely have at least one in January. All of those before the registrar scheduling date is due. We also have user documentation. So you can find that link at the bottom left of the ISA. That's a link to user documentation. Those articles have been developed by the ISA work group. They've done a fantastic job. There's screenshots. There's, from a department scheduler's perspective, how to do it and how to use the tool. If you're not finding what you need out of that list of articles, then you can click on the send feedback. That's going to open a ticket for us in Snow. And that'll be the development team and myself. And then if we need any information from anyone else, we will handle that from there. You can also open a ticket by sending an email to isa-help@ucsd. That again goes to the same group, myself and the developers. Or you can reach out to your divisional representative for the ISA, which you'll find on the Blink page. I know that not all divisions have a representative at this point. That is something I am hoping to resolve, but with as much turnover as there has been and as much short staffing as there has been, I'm sure that all of you are feeling that and understand why it may take us a little while to find someone with both the time and the experience to be able to help in that regard. But if you don't have a rep, you can still reach out to us by submitting a ticket either through send feedback or the ISA help email, and we can get you something set up with either myself or another rep or someone who can answer your question in a one-on-one basis. So that could be I'm getting started, or I don't like, I'm having all these sorts of issues, like, oh, why do I keep running into this validation error, those sorts of things. It just whatever you need. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
My audio just died, so.
Perfect timing.
Which is how it always works, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that's how you get help. ISA workgroup members are listed here. You can also go to Blink. As you can see, Arts and Humanities, we had someone, but she's just not available anymore because everything is happening for everyone, as everyone here I'm sure is aware of. We need someone for DSS. We need someone for DPS. We're also hoping to get some people for School of Medicine, School of Pharmacy, but here's the list. You can review it on Blink. And final poll says, what topics do you need would be most helpful for us to have some form of training on? So don't pick more than 5. Again, these are your top 5. Should be really helpful.
Got some bunnies now. You're hitting all the good little cute things today. Oh, I'm like, is that a seal? Oh my gosh, adorable. And a panda.
The bunnies are in for my sake. We have 2 rabbits at home.
Oh, they're adorable.
Those are not our bunnies. None of those are our bunnies.
But inspired by your bunnies.
Inspired by our bunnies. All right, I've got everyone I think I would expect to get. So let me share those results so everyone can see.
This one's not as clearly segmented.
It still sets some priorities, what to work on first. Okay, great. So I know that we're over, but I do want to make sure that if anyone has any questions to ask them. I'm sure everyone has to hop in to other things. I'm sorry that we went over.
I have one really quick point.
Yep.
I know that we talked about subtitle and you see subtitle in lots of places, but just a reminder that only courses that may be taken more than once can carry a subtitle. So while you might put one in, that doesn't mean it's going to be posted. And you need to fill out the supplemental scheduling form with the subtitle in order to get that added to the class. When you're submitting in an ISA, subtitle is manual, it requires our fingers, and so that's why we need you to put it on the supplemental. Same thing for co-instructors. That's a part of the supplemental form. They're manual, they require our fingers, so it needs to go on the supplemental too.
Can I ask a follow-up question to the subtitle?
Absolutely.
So is that the part under when you're looking at the schedule of classes where it'll say like N15 and then so like for the summer courses, like we only want our participants to enroll, like we want to let students know like, oh, this is an open course. Is that
No.
a different section?
The subtitle is generally used for courses that are topical. So it could be
Okay.
topics in engineering, and the subtitle is driving robots.
Okay.
It's noted on the transcript. It's a transcripted subtitle for the course. You're talking about text. Text is informational. It should be short and sweet, and it is not on their transcript. So it's not something that would be considered part of the official record of that course.
Gotcha. Okay. And where could I put that text?
You would need to wait until last look.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's all manual.
good. Of course. Okay.
For
Thank
now.
you.
For now. Yeah, the subtitles, like we have a, if you have a course music 15 and it's being offered 5 times in the session, and one person's talking about history of, drumming, and another one's talking about guitar legends, like students just need to know which version of that class to enroll in.
But again, the course has to be repeatable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even if you're offering 3 lectures of the same course, if it's not repeatable, we still can't add a subtitle.
Got it.
Can I answer Andrew's question?
Yes, go ahead. Kimberly.
So standard teaching times are slightly different if you're talking about the 5-week term in summer. Pretty sure they're on Blink if you search standard teaching times. We have a separate section for standard teaching times. Those times assume that your class in a 10-week quarter meets 3 hours a week, and that your discussion section in a 10-week term meets 1 hour a week, but I'm pretty sure you can find those on Blink.
Yeah, the link's in the chat. Cara put it in there.
Awesome.
And then it's in the summer session guidebook as well.
All right, last call. You can always send us a ticket or reach out to the respective groups depending on the type of question you have. If it's ISA related, that'd be my group. If it's summer session specific, that would be Lisa's group. And if it's more, scheduled classes, general related, that's going to be Kimberly's group. All right. Well, thank you all very, very much. I appreciate those who attended, those who were able to stick with us to the end. I do apologize for going over. I know everyone's time is very valuable and very scarce these days. So thank you all, and have a wonderful day and week and scheduling excitement, scheduling window and year and all the things. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.